And if this organization is pissed off, excuse my language, but upset because I'm apolitical, I don't care. And this is a organization that pretty much owns Pittsburgh, and it's a medical and hospital and university, but we won't say, that turned me down, we won't say. But if I have to lose fantastic guests or so-so guests, so be it. Because my number one priority is life. That's all I got to say on that. Annette has a thing to do, but I want to actually take it to Chris first, because I need Chris to get in there. Chris, I want you to touch on whatever topic you want and an update on Senate Bill 699. And then we need to talk about possible dog abuse that was brought to us by a concerned Pittsburgher and American, which I won't mention names, but we're going to talk about that dog. So let's quickly give you about 2 minutes. I have 6:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
One thing is when you're talking about that organization, we won't say what it is, but is it like you pay me cheap?
I will not comment on as to what it is.
It's just a joke.
I have no idea
and
what it is.
Also, when we're talking about people going to the polls, I have an idea. Is if you're going to vote, if you're going to the polls and vote,
Look at the
and you don't want to go alone. If you know you have friends or relatives that vote, go together.
Exactly.
And then after you vote, go out and get a cup of coffee or something. And it's where you get to spend quality time together.
Well, Chris, I don't know if you agree with me, but I consider this one of the most important elections of all time. 2000 was, but this one supersedes it. This is about life and death. And also, it's very important. You may not like either person campaigning for governor of Pennsylvania or your state. Keep in mind that the governor has the power to take away possibly the power to take away elements of the federal health care law. So that means even though we may remain having this law, one of the candidates has pledged to appeal it. And Tom Corbett, I'm going to come out and say it. Tom Corbett said if he has his way, he's not going to administer these new provisions. So we got to think about that. I'm not in love with either candidate, and I think both of them at times have a lot to be desired. But having said that, Chris, do we vote this year? Do we vote for candidates? Do we vote for life and death? Or do we vote to improve our lives? What do you think?
I'll make it really brief, and you can read between the lines. If people,
Let's see what lines are.
people vote to have the health care bill overturned, that means that you're signing death warrants.
That's pretty blunt. Well, why
Very
don't you,
true.
And I will repeat it. You are signing death warrants.
indirectly, yeah. And we're also giving a free pass to the insurance industry that over a 4-year term actually makes over $4 trillion. So why don't you take it to Annette?
Okay, and in Senate Bill 699, and I'll mention this briefly, it did pass, and we will talk about it in a future show, and it did pass. I would like to thank the state all the politicians that signed for it, co-sponsored it. I would like to thank people that called the governor and called their state representatives in getting the bill passed. It did sign into law, and we will be talking about it on a future show.
And I have an idea. If you can get the phone number of Chief Executive Dan Honorado and gubernatorial candidate, why don't you call Dan Honorado and see his views on the healthcare law? And why don't you call Tom Corbett? Give him a call. That's right. Say, you know what? You're not taking this from me. But at any rate, with that, and that we got about, can you do like 2 minutes worth? And then I want to talk about this dog. I don't want to forget the dog. And tell them what you're doing. No, your report, your stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, and tell them what you're doing.
I'm reading a report.
She read a book. Tell them the name of the book and all that fun stuff.
Change your brain, change your life.
Okay, and if you could quickly do that. I'm going to lean forward because my back is really hurting badly. But I still get it done. Sorry, I have to bend like this, but it's hurting.
This is a book report on the studies of the brain and its functions relating to how we feel, think, and perform. The most popular procedure used is called SPECT, S-P-E-C-T, which is a nuclear medicine brain study similar to the EEG and CAT scans also used to study the brain. SPECT stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography, which measures cerebral blood flow and metabolic activity patterns. SPECT observes conditions such as depression, anxiety, moods, and forms of violence. With SPECT, patients are able to see evidence of their brain activity that helps them what forms of treatment are required. Such patients are those with dementia, schizophrenia, depression, and head injuries, and so on. There are 5 brain systems that correspond with our behaviors. 1, the deep limbic system, located at the center of the brain, controls your moods. When this area of the brain is off-center, patients feel moody and negative. Certain smells and clear thinking soothe the deep limbic system. Number 2, the basal ganglia are large structures deep within the brain. When this area of the brain is overexerted, it leads to anxiety and panic. Certain drugs help contain this particular problem, as other defects in different areas of the brain require certain prescriptions. Number 3, the prefrontal cortex, located at the front tip of the brain, is the part that helps you stay focused and able to concentrate, make plans, control impulses, and choosing to make good or bad decisions.
Okay, Annette, I hate to interrupt you. Let's go to number 4 and 5, and then I'm going to challenge you on something. So if you could finish those 2, I have a challenge for you.
The cingulate is the part of the brain that runs longitudinally through the middle part of the frontal lobes. When this part of the brain is overworked, patients tend to overworry, among other things. The temporal lobes are located underneath the temples and behind the eyes. These control memory, understanding language, and temper control. When there is a defect, usually in the left temporal lobe, patients lose their temper easily, have rapid mood changes, and difficulty with memory and learning.
Okay, now Annette, because of time constraints, we can't continue. Here is my challenge to you. Are you ready for a challenge?
I guess.
I want you, if you're willing to, I will do a tape roll, a special.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a special where you read the entire report.
Yeah.
So we could present it to the audience. You would read the entire report, and then I would interview you and question you on some of the aspects and why we're bringing this up. And then also, I would like you to read this entire report on the cancer stuff during this tape roll. So would you commit to doing a special show where you may actually act mainly as the host?
When?
As soon as I can film it. Would you commit to that, and would you tell the audience that you would?
I'll try.
So you're willing to do it? So, all right, America, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and America, get ready for that. Before we go, we have about 3 minutes. Recently, it has come to my attention that on Washington Boulevard, very close to a pet establishment, there is a garage that I'm not sure what they do there. They have a bulldozer and a couple of possible junk cars. They own a pit bull that I believe is a guard dog. And there is a possibility that this dog may be being abused. And it was brought to my attention, actually this person took some photographs that I was not willing to show at this time for both their security, technical reasons, and myself. I would like Officer Gosser, former guest here of the Humane Society, the ASPCA, Animal Friends, and every organization that can be named dealing with animals. I would like one of you, or in collaboration, all of you, to go down and do an investigation. When I studied the photographs, I noticed that the water definitely was too far away from the dog. He's on a very heavy chain and very, very little mobility. So I believe he is at very least being neglected. There did not appear in any way, shape, or form this person looked at the place, took these photographs. There was no shelter for the dog. Imagine this dog out there during these terrible elements and the heat during the summer that we just had, and having no access to water, no food, and no doghouse. Obviously, that would, I believe, be a violation and neglect. In addition, there still is no place for this dog, and the dog apparently attempts to crawl under one of these vehicles. It's unsafe for the dog, and at the very least, it may not constitute any neglect, it may not constitute any abuse. But I'm asking for the people who have the power, Officer Gosser and the Humane Society, the ASPCA, all the humane officers, please go down there, find this building. I'm not going to mention the address because I don't have it, but find it and do an investigation. Now, as a reminder, you may love your animals, and this person may be totally innocent. We're going to assume that they are. But even if you love your animals and you think you're doing great, if you have animals outside, they must have shelter. They must have at the very least, water, and they must be fed 2 to 3 times a day. If you don't have that, you may not know it, but you're neglecting and abusing your animal. And as a person who cares about life of animals and of humans, I urge the authorities to investigate this. I want to thank the person who actually had the guts and took personal risk to do what they had done. So I thank you, and I hope that this dog's life is spared and that it has a better life. It certainly looked unhappy. And you know what? Yes, it was a wonderful dog. Chris, we got to close down. And by the way, remember that we now use the left hand when we do the Humanity Matters. So, Chris, why don't you take it away and do the rest, and then remember to say the rundown. We got like 48 seconds, so move it.
So again, I'd just like to thank...
And no more passing notes on live TV, please. Okay, go ahead. Go. Go.
I just want to be sure to make sure you vote. And also I had this idea is when people go to vote, there's a lot of businesses out there. Why don't they accept the voter stub as a coupon where they can get a discount on items, or even as a percentage of a discount, and it has that, use that voter stub as a possible
wrap it up. Is that a possible incentive?
Right, but that's a possibility. But remember, humanity really does matter.
Remember that you and humanity really
does matter.
Jesus cut? Whose healthcare would Jesus cut? Would he say, go save yourself, cause we're in a money rut? Would he dump seniors on Skid Row, kick poor kids in the butt? Tell me, whose healthcare would Jesus cut? Oh no. How would he be dressed? Would he go down to the uptight church in his Sunday best? Oh, yeah. Would he wear a crystal cross and hide behind a bishop vest? Tell me, how would Jesus dress?
How would he dress?
Would he ignore global warming?